Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the July 18, 2022 meeting of your Board of Commissioners to order. We will start with the invocation that will be led by our manager, Lance Metzler. That'll be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. That'll be led by Dakota Reeves. So if everyone would please rise.
If you would, please bow your head and join me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for all your gifts and wisdom that you give to us to make good decisions on behalf of our populace of Rockingham County. Please help us to turn to you and search for answers so that when decisions are made, they're made for what is pleasing to you. Look after our Board of Commissioners and our staff to provide the leadership that you have asked them to do on your behalf, and help our board make decisions that will make positive impacts to our community. We ask that you bless us, look over us, and give us strength to lead with honesty and integrity. In God's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic
which stands one nation under God, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda, we have a few recognitions. Gentlemen, if we could, we'll move to the front of the commissioner's table and join Mr. Richardson. Commissioner Richardson, you got the microphone.
Fantastic.
Good to see you. I'm standing beside Dakota Reeves, and he has earned the honor of being the youngest, I believe, I haven't seen anybody younger than Dakota, of being the outstanding volunteer in Rockingham County for the month of July. And we look forward to having your name on our board around there, not just because you're 18, but Dakota has done a lot of volunteer work, particularly with the rescue squad and emergency services in the western part of the county. He's presently finishing his high school diploma via GED. And I want to say something on some danger of embarrassing, but I know for a fact that Dakota hasn't always had the greatest amount of support at home and around him. Nevertheless, he's been involved since you were 14, I believe, with the rescue squad, and has volunteered in all sorts of capacities in the western part of the county, and has just set a great example, not just for people his age, but for folks throughout the county. And so I'm particularly pleased, Dakota, to pass you this certificate signed by yours truly and the other commissioners, recognizing you as the Rockingham County Volunteer of the Month. Congratulations. Shake their hands too. Now you have the opportunity to make a speech if you like. No? All right, just smile. We'll get a picture and we'll let you go. Well done, Eric.
Okay, I would ask that Mark McClintock come forward. So this is actually an honor and a privilege to show recognition for Mark McClintock. Stand over there with the commissioners. He came to work with Rockingham County in 1997 and continued to work with us for 25 years of service to the county. Mark served in capacities, and when Karen Carter retired, he became the tax assessor that I served with during most of my career since I've been here. He was a very dedicated and loyal employee. I would come here on Saturdays and Sundays to do some work, and Mark and Diane were always here, particularly during the revow. They didn't get paid for it. They were exempt employees, so they came. They were very dedicated to Rockingham County. So his expertise and his experience have really gone a long way. We work very well together, and we miss him every day. I talked to Mark about giving presentations and coming to talk to me, and then I had to say, summarize it, then summarize it, then summarize it some more. So if you know Mark, that's a task, but he was able to do it, and so we really appreciate all his hard work and his effort. I know that he'll be back working with us, hopefully in the near future. I think Todd, the interim tax assessor, he's working on getting some staff back to help work out. So, Mark, we look forward to having you back here. But it is actually an honor to have you here and to actually read this resolution for you. Resolution honoring the dedicated service of Mark C. McClintock. Whereas Mark McClintock began working for the Rockingham County Tax Department on March the 17th, 1997, and whereas he began his service in the tax department by working in various areas, including land records, personal property, tax appraisal, and was subsequently appointed as tax appraiser supervisor in 2013. And whereas during his many years working in the tax department, he developed skills and expertise in many areas, winning the North Carolina Association of Assessing Officers Appraiser of the Year Award for 2011 for outstanding achievement in tax assessment and public service. And whereas Mark McClintock, due to his experiences, abilities, and certifications that he earned through the North Carolina Department of Revenue, was appointed Rockingham County Tax Administrator by the Rockingham County Board of Commissioners on March 16, 2015, after serving 2 years as interim. And whereas in addition to his service to the tax department, he has served his community well and continued to do so by volunteering countless hours over the last 10 years supporting hospice of Rockingham County. And whereas Mark McClintock has served as an example of a leader and a public servant working many hours, overtime hours, and his staff to complete the department's extensive duties, being described by staff as a can-do person and always willing to do what it takes to get the job done, treating everyone with kindness and devoting his career to the betterment of Rockingham County. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Rockingham County Board of Commissioners that Mark McClintock be honored for his more than 25 years of faithful and exemplary service to the Rockingham County Tax Department and to Rockingham County and its citizens this, the 18th day of July, 2022. Mark, congratulations.
Mark, we do have a framed copy of the resolution we'd like to present to you tonight. I can tell you I've had the pleasure of working with you in a couple of different capacities and have truly enjoyed your expertise and your professionalism, and you'll truly be missed. So thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Short now.
I thought I sent a 30-slide PowerPoint, but I must have forgotten. Rockingham County is a great place to work and live. I am a Rockingham County native. My mentor was Karen Carter. I was hired by Charles Thomas. So I very much enjoyed working here. They gave me the opportunity to take a job into a career and meet some great people, co-workers and friends. Some of those are here tonight. Thank you very much.
We got one more. Then next we have another recognition. Melissa Joyce, Deputy Fire Marshal, if you would come down, please. We're going to hand the floor over to you.
Hey, good about you, hey buddy.
Oftentimes, achievements and sacrifices that members of the public safety and their families, the sacrifices that they make, they go unnoticed. So some of you may or may not know, but several years ago, Emergency Services Director Rodney Cates, he implemented a program to recognize employees of emergency services, emergency medical services, and 911 for actions and interventions that they took that maybe saved a life or even delivered a baby. So when we came to the county, we decided that that would be something that we wanted to extend out a little bit further. With that being said, we wanted to make that available to the fire service and also to our rescue squads. So tonight, we have our first two lifesavers with the rescue squad and with the fire departments, and we would like you all to join us in recognizing them. When we call your name, if you'll please come down forward, remain standing with us until both awards are received so we can make sure to get photos with both you individually and with you both together. Our first award goes to Captain Joel Fullerton of the Eden Rescue Squad. As Joel's coming down, I want to give you a little bit of history. He holds the rank of captain with the Eden Rescue Squad, and he's been there for over 7 years. He works part-time for Rockingham County EMS currently, and he also works full-time for Alamance County EMS. On April the 24th, Captain Fullerton responded to an incident where his actions resulted in saving of a life of a patient. Mr. Fullerton, we thank you for what you've done, and we appreciate you being our first recipient of the Rescue Lifesaver Award. Here we have a certificate that we have created, as well as a challenge coin for you to have.
We have a note for you from the county to remind you that you're in a good place.
Come on, get it from us. So our second award goes to Gerald Strader of Oregon Hill Fire Department. Gerald, if you'll come on down. Give you a little history on Gerald. He's one of the original charter members of Oregon Hill Fire Department, so he was there when it first started. He's held numerous ranks throughout his career there, including the rank of assistant chief. He's retired Reedsville captain. He still works part-time for Oregon Hill, and he's a volunteer with them. On May 13th of 2022, firefighter Strader responded to an incident where his actions resulting in saving of a patient's life. So we want to recognize you tonight with our first Firefighter Lifesaver Award and certificate. Thank you, Gerald.
Also get the reminder that you're in a good place.
That's right.
Of course. Don't nail these windows.
Take care, guys. See you. Now turn it off. Thank you. All right, fun begins. Phew, man.
Okay, next on the agenda is approval of tonight's agenda. Gentlemen, you've had a chance to review the agenda. It's been in your hands for close to a week. Do we have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Hall, second by Commissioner Powell. All in favor, let it be known by the sound of aye. Aye. Next is the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda tend to be non-controversial in nature. If anyone has any questions about items on the consent agenda, you can reach out to our manager, Lance Metzler, or his staff. They'll be glad to answer any questions on items on the consent agenda. With that, gentlemen, do we have a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda?
Moved.
Motion by Commissioner Richardson, second by Commissioner Powell. All in favor, let it be known by the sound of aye. Aye. Next is the public comment section of our meeting. Let's see. And no one signed up for the public comment. So we will move to the public hearings. Marzie, I believe the first public hearing is case 2022-08, rezoning from RA to REM. The floor is yours.
Thank you all very much. As you said, this first one is case 2022-08. This is for a zoning map amendment request from residential agricultural to residential mixed. The location of this request is on Newnham Road, and also bits of it are on I-73 US 220. It's located in the Huntsville Township. This is a non-conditional straight rezoning, so in the consideration of this rezoning or this request, you need to take into account all the possible uses of that zoning district in and of itself. The planning board, after 2 meetings, did vote unanimously 6-0 to recommend approval of this request back in June. As you can see on the vicinity map, this is in our southwest quadrant of our county. The hashed marks show, you can see where it's on Newnham Road and up to 220. Here is you can see some water features. There is a pond on the property. There are some streams going to it. There's also a wide berth of an easement for power lines that crosses this property. And it is in our G3 land class for our growth corridor. Which does, of course, focus on a variety of uses, mixed uses, commercial uses, high-density residential uses, things like that. If there's any questions for me on this one, I believe the applicant's here to actually present.
Say that again?
I said the applicant's here to present, so if you have any questions of me regarding this information yet, I figured you'd probably have it after the...
Right. Does anybody have any questions of Marzie before the presentation by the applicant? If not, okay. Hand it over to the applicant if he's going to do the presentation.
I'll give you that map.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Andrew Darcy. I'm an attorney at the law firm of Craig Jenkins, Lifford & Walker, located in Winston-Salem. That address is 110 Oakwood Drive, Suite 300, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I'm here to respectfully request our petition for rezoning from residential agricultural to residential mixed on behalf of my client, Maxon Construction and Development. Well, I'm going to let Bill Arndt, a representative who's here with me tonight, get into the specifics of the project. I want to kind of get a little bit deeper into our compliance with the UDO and the vision plan for Rockingham County. One of the guiding principles of the UDO is to provide for the orderly growth and development in future expansion areas within this county. My client's development falls squarely within the G3 mixed-use center and corridor and is filling a void that this community has related to the missing middle housing, which I've seen in both the vision plan and the UDO. With this project, our hope is that we are able to give flexibility to the residents to have an alternative to that single-family home and have access to townhomes in a market that doesn't require them to go to Guilford County or Forsyth County for that townhome type feel. Following with one of the principles of the vision plan, one of the tenets of that is focused on coordinated growth. Right now, we're working with the DOT. Bill has met with folks at Camp Carefree, and in those 2 meetings leading up to the planning board, we've been trying to take as much public comment as possible so that everybody's working together towards this coordinated growth and not just developer fixing up Newnham Road. With regard to economic prosperity, we're looking for a 5-year build time. That is going to result in jobs and employment during this market that we don't exactly know what's going to happen over the next few months and years. Again, I want to emphasize the focus on housing variety. And what we're trying to do is separate out the townhome aspect from the single-family home so that we can reduce the traffic flow onto Newnham Road. So that's what we're trying to have, that access for the townhome, at least on the left of the property if you're looking at it at the gas station. And then try to focus on that flow of traffic, because we understand that we need to be mindful of what's coming in the community and all public support and utilities and everything affiliated with the development of this size. But specifics of it, I'm going to turn it over to Bill Arndt to answer any questions you guys have on this particular project. Thank you.
You said everything perfectly. I'm Bill Arndt. I live in Summerfield, North Carolina. The project to the south on Newnham Road is one of our projects, and our favorite thing about this project, and you said it perfectly, but is that we're bringing a new product into Rockingham County that hasn't been here in a long time. That part of it's the most exciting about it. We started out at 112 units, and I scaled it back to 85. One, for traffic, because from the community meeting that we had, they were concerned about traffic and emergency service, and rightfully so. I understood that. So I scaled back some of the units and tried to preserve more of the viewscapes, have some access to the pond in some way, because it's actually a very pretty piece of property out there, and let the single family operate on its own, which is why I separated it, and have the townhomes entering off at 220 and so on and so forth. So, but everything that Mr. Darcy said is correct. We're excited about bringing a different product into Rockingham County. We feel like the housing need in this area meets everything in the UDO, and we feel like it's going to be a successful one. So.
Okay. All right. At this time, does anyone have any questions for the applicant?
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Is this 85 units total?
All with the single family and the townhomes, it'll be 222. We'll have 137 single family homes that will service two entrances off of Newnham Road for emergency services and fire, and then we'll have one entrance in from 220 to the townhomes, which is a total of 85.
Thank you.
Commissioner Travis?
Thank you. Appreciate you coming to visit, talk to us about it, but a couple questions I have is, what kind of buffer are you going to have on Newman Road? How far back?
Oh, we'll have plenty. I mean, I was more worried about the buffer to the north on the townhomes, which will be roughly 50 feet. But on the single family, there'll be quite a bit, because as you start to get into the property, there's a lot of creek beds and stuff, you know, that kind of thing back there. So it's just going to naturally buffer itself.
Right. Are you going to have like a little natural area out front of the road, so really people can't really see the houses from the road, or how's it going to work?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's, we're actually kind of working on that now, just to create almost like a split rail fence with a berm, and then we'll landscape it all the way across the front on Newnham Road.
Okay.
On both sides, the south side and the north side that we're talking about.
Right, and I guess the 220 side, that's where your townhome's going to be?
Yes, sir.
How many units did you say of townhomes?
85.
85 townhomes.
Yep.
Okay, and then how many houses?
137.
137 houses.
Mm-hmm.
And is there going to be a turning lane out there on 220 to go into this property, or?
Yes, we've already talked with that, because we knew that would be an issue possibly with DOT. So we're going to have to, which is fine, create a decel lane on 220. You know, that way we're not jamming things up and people getting hit, that kind of thing. So no, we're prepared to do that part of it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The one thing I will mention, we will have, because we kind of clustered them around on the townhome piece of it, we will have 2, 3, 4, and 6 unit buildings. That's how we get to the 85. I know it's kind of strange, but it gives people plenty of space to see, and amenities and that kind of thing.
Okay.
More outdoory.
Commissioner Powell, you said you had another question?
Yes. In your estimation, not to hold you to it, but in your estimation, what percentage of this land is going to be developed on? I know you've got a pond, you've got creeks, so you've got stream buffers and pond buffers and all that stuff. So what in your estimation would be the built-on percentage?
Well, it's a total of 74 acres, but really I think we're only going to be able to develop about 55 to 60 of it.
Okay.
So there's going to be plenty of open space, especially on the townhome side.
Any other questions of the
I've
applicant?
got one.
Yes, sir.
The open space you talked about, is that specifically designated for resident use, joint use?
Well, it's not joint use from the single family to the townhomes, but yes, it's specifically directed towards the residents. So the townhome folks will have like a dog park, and they'll have a community center and that kind of thing. Whereas the single family piece will have their own amenities, which will be a swimming pool and a smaller clubhouse, much like what's up at Collybrook, I guess. But yes, but they will be separate. There won't be a shared use amongst the two.
Thank you.
And next, we will move into the public hearing aspect of this. Before we start on the public hearing, I'll ask our manager, Mr. Metzler, to read the rules, or Mr. Morris, our attorney, to read the rules in regards to comments during the public hearing.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. All those desiring to speak during the public hearing will sign in on the sign-up sheet located at the rear entrance of the Commissioners' chambers. The chairperson or designee will read aloud the specific ordinance title, zoning issue, or other hearing matter being considered at the beginning of the hearing. For zoning and land development matters, the Director of Community Development or designee will, in general, present the facts of the public hearing, the decision of the Planning and Zoning Board, and staff's recommendation. For other matters that require a public hearing, the department head or designee related to the matter will, in general, present the facts of the public hearing and a recommendation. The public who signed up to speak will have 3 minutes to speak, or can yield his or her time, or can be yielded time from another individual. However, one individual will have no more than 6 minutes collectively. There is a 30-minute time limit for public comment. Each speaker shall clearly state his or her name and physical address when he, she, or she approaches the podium. Once the public has had the opportunity to voice either in favor or against a proposal, the applicant may be allotted up to 7 minutes to provide a rebuttal. Following the public hearing on an ordinance or discussion by the public on an ordinance, zoning issue, or public issue, the Board of Commissioners shall be afforded an opportunity to speak and voice his or her views on the subject matter. At the conclusion of this debate, the question shall be called, and no further debate or statements shall be in order, and action will be taken regarding the public hearing. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. First is Mike Casado. Did I pronounce that right? Okay.
My name is Mike Casado. I own Kalo Foods, which is in that area. The property is just off at 220. And I've attended one of the meetings, and the impetus to the presentation is a combination of the fact that I have property and the manufacturing business. And I attended the meeting where most of the concerns were under the decision-making process of the County Planning and Zoning Board and the elected commissioners. The commissioners have the final decision in the process. The infrastructure issues that were raised by the community were traffic, sewer and water, fire and rescue, and schools. The proposed developments will add approximately 3,600 more vehicles, and this is in addition to this. It's all of the development that's going on right now down there. So about 3,600 more vehicles to the traffic on 220. There have been 5 fatalities in the first 5 months of 2022 just in the proposed development area where the jug handle turnarounds are. None of the developer plans or county plan take into consideration that Route 220 will be developed into I-73, which will eliminate crossroad traffic and require service roads to run parallel. During the housing construction phases, there will be increased truck and contractor traffic. On the sewer and water, based on the county 2040 vision plan, the county has agreements with Madison and Reedsville for approximately 750,000 gallons per day of water, and only 90,000 gallons per day are used now. The county is also constructing a new water tower, which I think is complete. The county has agreements with Madison and Eden on 418,000 gallons per day on wastewater treatment, but only use 85,000 gallons per day. The county will still have to install appropriate sewer and water lines to service the new developments. On the fire and rescue, there are currently 2 fire stations that will service the new developments, Bethany and Huntsville. Staff and equipment in new stations should be in the planning process and move forward as the developments break ground. Based on Reedsville's statistics of 1 fire station per 2,000 households, at least 1 new fire station is needed to be added. The same Reedsville figures have 1 fireman per 227 homes, which would require an additional 8 firemen to be added. On the schools, since this is over a 5-year period and based on statistics, it would probably only add about 679 students, which over 5 years would probably get absorbed into the school system. The adequate public facility ordinance approach, which is in your 2040 vision plan, is something that needs to be followed. I-73, if the planning is not documented now, eminent domain and service road location remain a negative benefit for the household sales. When I-73 becomes reality, it will require eminent domain acquisition of significant parcels of land to add approximately a minimum of 100 feet in the width of the road, plus on and off ramps. Fire department and EMC should be in the current budget and move forward as soon as the development starts. The Sheriff's Department staff should be increasing as the projects move forward due to the increased potential for property crimes and material theft.
Thank you, Mr. Casado.
That's it?
Yes, sir.
All right.
All right. Thank you. Miss Cindy Young.
Hello, my name is Cindy Young, and I live at 405 Newnham Road. And I would like to request that the board deny this request and that the builder reapply for conditional rezoning instead. You know, I grew up on Newnham Road, moved back in 2019, built a house there. I have a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I'm very concerned about the hazardous traffic situation. It is already a hazard. Like was mentioned before, there have been multiple wrecks and fatalities there. Right now, we have everyone on Newnham Road and everyone on Bennett Farm Road, they have to exit Newnham Road. That's 36 homes in addition to the Exxon gas station traffic. So the builder is already adding 64 homes on Newnham Road. So that'll be 100 homes using Newnham Road as their only exit. In addition, they're proposing with this new plan to add 137 more homes. That'll be 237 homes in addition to gas station traffic that only have Newnham Road to exit. I want you to understand, to exit, you have to sit at a stop sign and turn onto 220. And the speed limit changes right down the road from 65 to 55. No one slows down. It's extremely hazardous. Sometimes we already have to wait 5 minutes to be able to turn right. So you have to turn right, and then you have to do a U-turn and turn left to turn south to go back to Greensboro. That is never going to work for 237 people. It is already a hazard. When we contact DOT, they're telling us that there is no plan right now to address that situation. That's what we've been told when we have contacted them. Again, we are just really concerned about our families' lives here and the endangerment that this is going to add to them. We would ask that the builder at least have conditional zoning. I mean, why can the townhomes and the single-family homes not be connected? Why can the single-family homes not use the exit that the townhomes are going to use? If they're going to already have an additional exit onto 220, why can't they connect since the property, the land adjoins? It would really help out the folks on Newnham Road just to be able to have that additional exit so everyone is not going off of the one road onto 220. Really would appreciate you all considering that and having the builder reapply for conditional rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Sherry Webster.
Hi, my name is Sherry Webster. I reside at 402 Newnham Road. I'm here to request that the rezoning be denied at this time due to safety and infrastructure concerns. And I'm going to go off script a second. Mr. Arndt did meet with us as a community, and he did propose the same plan that he proposed to you all. But you know as well as we do, and with all due respect, that plan could change at any moment. He's asking for a straight rezoning. There is no condition that says he has to use this exit. He has to have this many townhomes. He has to have this many houses. He can add, he can take away, he can change that any way he wants to. And you've allowed that through the straight zoning that you're allowing him to request. On February 14th, 2020, Commissioner Richardson spoke with Rockingham 411 and stated, "We are interested in the best quality of life that we can provide, we as commissioners. We want a healthy place to live. We are always interested in safety aspects, security, fire control, emergency medical response, and having enough personnel." Commissioner Richardson, the citizens here tonight also want those same things, and currently we are not getting them. Upon speaking to the planning board and several commissioners, we've been told we have adequate EMS, fire, sheriff's deputies, acceptable traffic patterns, and any concerns that are brought about by this proposed development will be addressed by the TRC. With all due respect, that's not true. We have spoken to people from these departments. They have all assured us they do not have what they need now. They have told us we do not have this. They are certain that if more homes are added, they won't receive it then. They've been asking. They did not receive from you. Here are the facts. Our EMS director is running shifts, not doing their job, other people's. Neighboring counties help respond to our calls because we cannot handle the volume of calls without adequate personnel. Once again, the sheriff was not given money for more deputies. The number of traffic incidents continue to increase, and 5 fatalities last year in the area we are discussing occurred. Does that sound like you're protecting us? As for TRC, the representatives already know they are not really expected to deny the feasibility of these proposals. It's their job to make it happen with or without funds. This board has already approved zoning for thousands of homes in this area this past year, 63 on our road. The proposed development would add 137 more houses, 85 townhomes, and a simple stop sign does not address that safely. There is no way. What we are asking of you is not unreasonable. Today, in a 5-minute Google search, I found 3 other North Carolina counties who denied rezonings just like this because of traffic and infrastructure concerns from their citizens. These are examples of a board who listened to their citizens. If they can do it, you can too.
Johnny Brown. Johnny Brown.
Hello, my name is Johnny Brown. I live at 402 Newnham Road in Stokesdale, North Carolina. I am here to request that this rezoning application, along with the others, be denied at this time, but not indefinitely, though, just at this time, due to the underlying safety and infrastructure concerns. By doing so, this board will have the opportunity to amend the UDO to stipulate that all future major subdivisions of 100-plus homes be required to request a conditional rezoning. In addition to the safety concerns that the previous ladies brought up, we, the citizens of Rockingham County, have concerns with this development and the other proposed developments because they don't appear to have adequate protections for the neighboring communities. A straight rezoning does not guarantee any protections for the community. And as the gentleman has just spoken, he said what he was going to do or what he would like to do or what have you. But without those conditions, there's no guarantee that he will do those things or he will have to do those things. Okay, and so we want those kind of protections. As a matter of fact, we raised this issue with Commissioner Powell last Friday morning. And I want to thank Commissioner Powell for speaking with us last Friday morning. We talked for quite a bit, and I appreciate that. But when we asked him if he would be willing to vote to change the UDO to protect the citizens' quality of life, he stated that he would not. He explained that how these protections would inconvenience developers by making it more difficult for them to assess what they would be required to do when they're creating their proposals or what have you. And however, I disagree with that. The conditions that we are proposing are not unreasonable, such as increasing setback requirements, creating additional buffers, extra erosion protection beyond that of the state requirements, because we've heard from citizens who said that the state requirements just aren't enough. Include green spaces and provide light pollution protection. So while I understand that the need for us to be able to work with developers is important, I know the Rockingham County wants to develop. Now, I understand that, and although I would probably prefer that it didn't change as much, change is inevitable, so that's going to happen. But we need responsible change. Okay, so like I said, I understand the need for us to work with the developers, but I believe that this board's first priority is always the citizens, and to protect the citizens and look out for the citizens, not the developers. Taking all these concerns in consideration, again, I would ask the board that they should deny this zoning request at this time, again, at this time, and amend the UDO to stipulate that the major subdivisions be required to request conditional rezoning. So this developer can come back and he can apply again with a conditional rezoning, guaranteeing us and protecting us, the citizens of Rockingham County. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would, just hold your applause so we can get through the public comments. B.J. Ryerson.
Hi, I'm B.J. Ryerson. I live at 586 Carlton Road, which is pretty close to where this development is happening. And I'm wowed by what these other people have said. They have these written things, and I'm just here. I'm going to express this off of, so to speak, the cuff, because I feel like I'm fishing for you guys to help us. I don't speak lawyer. I'm just not that way. I say things maybe that you guys have answers to. You go, well, that doesn't matter. I understand with traffic, you go, well, there are 20,000 cars that go through there and only 5 people got killed. Well, those 5 people are important to us. And our kids, our 16 and 17-year-old kids that are trying to travel that highway are important to us. And our elderly family members are important to us. And when you add into this area, which when I'm looking at what this looks like, where he wants to put it, and where you have approved massive development to the tunes of just hundreds, if not thousands of homes. I mean, he said he wants to develop about 55 to 60 acres, but have 221 homes, basically, places for people to live. And that's just in that 75 acres, not what you guys have already approved. When you look at an aerial map of where you're allowing these developments, it doesn't look like that. These are fields that have been farmed. That's what was there. That's what I do. I'm just getting started. But I followed a tractor trailer that pulled into a development with steel plates on the back of it down Carlton Road, crossing the road multiple times. And I know if I was on my tractor over that hill, he would not have been able to stop. He wouldn't have. And he could have accessed that off of 65 directly from 220. But no, he came down curvy Carlton Road where I would be driving at a maximum of 17 miles an hour. And the speed limit is like 40. And he was doing 55 on Griffin Road. So these are just little things that I don't know how to get you to help us, but we need your help. And when you add these houses and you have EMS that's already understaffed, and they say, I want to go to Baptist or Forsyth or High Point Hospital because I'm a trauma or I'm having a heart attack, and that's really where they need to go, that ambulance leaves our county. And we already don't have enough ambulances. We already have these services that are struggling. And you can't meet it now, but you've already approved so many houses for an area that doesn't look like that. That's not why most of us moved here. That's not why we live where we live. And I just feel like you're putting us at risk. I mean, Wesley's going to talk to you about some stuff that's happening to him, an experience of living beside a development. And that's important too, because we're not being able to use our property like we want to use our property. My neighbor bought his property to hunt. How's he going to hunt with those houses in his backyard? Or not his backyard, but on his property line. Thank you.
Thank you. Eddie Allison.
Good evening. My name is Eddie Allison. I reside at 4115 Kernersville Road in Winston-Salem. I own the property directly north of this property that is looking to be rezoned. I'm going to, I guess, change up what I was planning on talking about because I think all the facts have been pretty well laid out. I think Joe Biden could figure out this is a bad idea. So let me just, as an educated and over 20 years experience as an engineer, I've done a bunch of planning. I live in the world of X's and O's, so I apologize if I don't care anything about government. I've learned not to trust government. This is my first foray into local government, so I want to give you my perception, the things that I see. The first thing is we come to the planning board meeting, and the planning staff comes up and they lay out those 4 slides, which is very little. I think you could have done that in about 30 minutes, and said this fits directly within our plan. What plan? Where is the plan? I know you got the UDO. Yeah, we got a plan. We're going to grow this area. Okay, what does that mean? What does that look like? What does that take? Right? So everybody stands up. We give our take on the traffic, the schools, the EMS, everything you guys have heard tonight. And then the Mr. Arndt gets up. Obviously, I don't have anything personal against him. He gets up and says, well, we have to move forward so I can develop the plan and show you guys what's going on. That sounded exactly like Nancy Pelosi when she says we have to pass the bill to see what's in it. That makes absolutely no sense, guys. You guys are professionals. I'm assuming you've been in business, you've done planning, you've done this before. Look at the facts, right? So at the planning meeting, multiple members of that board had concerns. Even the chairman said, go back and look at the video. It's right there. We never got the minutes, by the way, but the video's there. He says, I have serious concerns about how we get out on 220. Then, right after that, Rockingham County produced a video. During that video, the utilities manager stated that, yes, it is our planning area, and right now we're in the planning and design phase. I understand what it takes as an engineer to go from planning and design to doing it. How long would that take? I listened to the emergency services guy say that we're planning on reallocating people. Reallocating who? That means you got people sitting around not doing anything? You can just bring them over here? You know? And then I heard the staff of the planning cooperate with the lady that was doing it. Says, yes, we investigate all these things and we talk to all these groups before we bring it to the planning board, which either was false or never actually came to the planning board because none of that was in front of us. We come back, the planning board gave us no chance to talk. They did not address any of our concerns or any of their own concerns and did a straight 6-0. That is my impression of what's going on, and thank you.
Thank you. Wesley Sharp.
My name is Wesley Sharp. I own property on Griffin Road. The Griffin Road property I own backs up to a already established Collybrook subdivision. In the original phases of the Collybrook, the first 2 were fine. On the 3rd phase, it got to the property line. With that, they cut the trees, grubbed the stumps, brought up all the Carolina red dirt, and then when the rain came, it all went into the creek, into my pond. So my pond's been muddy since June of last year. I have talked to every agency that's in Rockingham County, and even your agencies that y'all send to Winston have been down there. They tell me they're doing everything they're required to do by y'all's rules and regulations. I understand that. But if it's not fixing the problem of my pond being muddy every time it rains, then they're not doing enough. I don't understand the situation of the growth in Rockingham County why we don't need a buffer between agricultural and residential. I understand you have a buffer between commercial and residential, but none between agriculture. So the last phase, all the septic tank lines and everything they put in went right to the line, right to the boundary line between my property and the other. The other thing is the soil erosion, the runoff, the water quality. Y'all have no departments in-house that address this for Rockingham County. This next development is going to have the same thing with their ponds and creeks. It's going to affect somebody down the creek and that has ponds or whatever with this runoff if it's not required for them to do enough to correct this. They need to have catch ponds to catch this water and filter it like Guilford County and other counties have. My request would be to deny this until that there's enough safety and rules and regulations in place to help these people. Because once this is developed and you approve it and that last house is built, then the only action I've got now is a civil suit. I've had to raise my farm insurance to $1 million just to cover the amount of people that backs up to this property that trespass, that want to go to the pond, that want to walk their dog, that want to do whatever. Where we're doing the hay, we have to pick up the trash out of the hay fields before we even, collect it. So this is my main thing with you. I've been there, done that. The next phase of Collybrook is on the other side of my property, and it's going to be the same thing going into that creek that's on that side of the property. Thank you.
Thank you. Larry Ryerson.
Yes, I'm going to yield my time to Rhonda Radenbow.
She didn't sign up. I've got Patty Everett. I guess, John, do we give the 3 minutes or?
3 minutes.
Two, I'm talking about the lady that didn't sign up where he's yielding his time.
They yielded his time to someone who did not sign up.
Correct.
I believe we wait for the end. If you,
okay,
Mr. Chair, so want to have that person speak, you may.
Okay. And then Ms. Everett, I don't think was sworn in. You got her squared away? Okay. Let's go ahead, Ms. Everett.
Hello, my name is Patty Everett. I live at 402 Newnham Road. I am 17 and I attend Rockingham Early College High School. I would like to discuss this housing development being built near my house. I have lived on Newnham Road my entire life. I grew up here hearing stories from my mom and grandparents of their memories on the farm in this area of the county that happened like 100 years ago. As I got older, the land became even more important to me as I gained my own experiences and had memories on it. As someone who is going to college and is aspiring to really make something of myself and have a great career, I have struggled with how I will do that considering I live in Rockingham County. Lots of my friends and people I know don't want to stay here because, let's face it, there's not a lot of good job opportunities for people who want high-paying jobs and careers in our county. However, I have always planned to commute to Greensboro from Rockingham County for the sole reason of being able to stay on my family's land and so I can live out of the city in a rural community. And now that I know where I live is just turning into another subdivision of houses being built right on top of each other, it doesn't really make me want to stay, because if I wanted that, I would just move to Greensboro. Rockingham County is important to me because it's different than the other counties around us. It has unique land, trees, fields, ponds. It offers something that people can't get anywhere else, like Greensboro. Economically and financially, it is important that Rockingham County they have to create housing. However, it's imperative that it's done in a way that preserves what makes us unique. For example, instead of 7 or 8 houses per acre or just apartment-style buildings, how about buildings with nice houses that have larger yards and hold higher value? This way, it's a higher-income housing development that provides a unique Rockingham County experience of rural life. We are our own county and not just the outskirts of Greensboro. How about we look at what we can do to grow our county and create something special instead of just following in suit of what Greensboro does? Because let's be honest, we're never going to be Greensboro, so we could use that to our advantage. And a month ago, I probably wouldn't have been up here saying this, but I just got back from governor school, and if there's one thing they preached, it's to use your voice. And that's what I'm doing tonight, because more than anything, I don't want to live in just a poorly planned and poorly executed version of a Greensboro housing development. I wrote this while sitting with my grandmother under her gazebo looking out at the field and sitting under the trees. That is the Rockingham County experience we need to preserve and create for people moving into this area and this housing development. We need to add walking trails, trees, barriers within the development separating the houses that will be built and the houses that I live in. Considering the people who already live here and the needs to create a community that serves everyone's needs. Lastly, as a child who just got her license a year ago, I am not the best driver, I admit that, but when I go to the stop sign on Newnham Road to turn on to 220, I sit there sometimes like 3 minutes. And you know when you're in like Raleigh or Charlotte or Greensboro, you sometimes turn your radio down so you can concentrate and you're like looking around you. It's stressful. That's what I do every time I get to that stop sign. And every time I turn off, I feel like I have a panic attack. And that's really not normal to just be driving to school or something. So it's a problem. So thank you.
Thank you. And so Mr. Ryerson yielded his time. Susan, you would need to get the information from the lady that he yielded his time to. So I think we're still within the 30-minute window.
So are we?
Ma'am, if you'd come down.
Gotcha.
Swear in public comment before we swear in the contractors. So the contractor can lie to us and public can't. Is that right?
Do they have to swear?
Good evening. I'm Rhonda Radenbow, and I live at 171 Carefree Lane. I'm a managing member of Camp Carefree. We have lived on that property for over 38 years. The property around the camp is of great value to the campers. It is a place where they get to come, where they get to be away from all of the city hubbub that's going on. By allowing all the development that's coming into our area, and it's not just this project. If you drive through our community over there, you will see within a 2-mile radius, there are hundreds of homes going in, hundreds of homes for middle-class people that are already down Gold Hill Road, that are going down Carlton Road, they're on Newnham Road. There is already substantial building going on Newnham Road. Yes, it's just moving dirt, but that dirt is moving at a great pace. Right now, our county does not have the infrastructure that it needs in place to provide for the citizens of this county. And the urban development plan that you have in place, that is a 40-year plan. It's for 2040, not 2022. It just seems to me that we are jumping the gun, and there is substantial building in this one little area of 220. It is not Interstate 73. It is 220. And it also has signs when you come into there saying freeway ends. The DOT does not have any plans to turn 220 into Interstate 73 within the next 8 years, where these builders are saying it's going to take 6 to 8 years to get this in place. It is a very dangerous traffic area over there already, like many of the people have already expressed. It's very difficult in the mornings to get in and out of work. That traffic is going to increase substantially with just the building projects themselves, with the tractor trailer, with the building materials. We also don't have the EMS and fire safety things in place that need to be in place. I know these things have already been said, but they're important to repeat. It's also, statistically, urban development is one of the greatest polluters of our streams in North Carolina. And that's just not in Rockingham County, that's in all of North Carolina. And it's been well studied and shown that we are depleting our own resources in this county by allowing this kind of growth. There are many counties around us in North Carolina, in our situation, rural counties where developers are coming in with boards like you that don't have the type of things in place like Guilford County, Forsyth County, that have a lot more restrictions. We did ask Mr. Arndt at our meeting at Camp Carefree if he would consider conditional zoning. His answer was no. He has no intention of asking for conditional zoning because conditional zoning is going to limit changes that can be made to that plan. The only people that can limit these plans are you. And our community pleads with you that you please consider us. You consider the citizens that are already here, the ones that have been your voters, the ones that have been your supporters. We want your support now. And we ask that you deny this zoning of this property. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. One that has signed up or has yielded their time to those that did not sign up. So with that, we will close the public hearing. Gentlemen, do you have any statements or questions of the applicant or Marzie?
I do.
Okay. Commissioner Powell?
Marzie, please, could you approach the podium?
Yes, sir.
The purpose of the meeting tonight is for us to consider rezoning a piece of property. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And we have to consider all the uses for that property. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And there are a number of uses under the RM zoning classification. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. They all primarily deal with residential uses.
Okay. And so in an RA, which I believe this is currently, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
How many houses could this gentleman build without coming to this board?
I believe our rules state that 100, once they reach 100 units, they have to go for rezoning to either RP or RM.
Okay. And once he makes the decision to build houses, if he does, that comes to your department for your consideration on whether he meets the rules that are set forth in the UDO and other things that concern his particular type of development. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. This type of thing would, for their specific use, would instigate a subdivision review for a major subdivision and go through our TRC process. Any other uses that didn't involve that type of process, minor subdivision or even just single uses, would be a desk review.
And so just for a hypothetical situation here real quick, because we've heard some differences in straight zoning and conditional rezoning, if we were to, it's hypothetical, if we were to deny this rezoning and ask the applicant to apply for conditional rezoning, what would that potentially cause for the county?
For the county?
Yeah.
Depending on how it's, how you made that decision, would depend on, any type of repercussions or what would happen.
So I think our earlier conversations, it would most likely result in a lawsuit against the county. Is that?
It could, as long as it wasn't justified. I will also point out that any denial of this application, and I know a lot of the concerns are, deny it and ask them to come back as for conditional. There's a mandatory 12-month limit before this property even could be considered for rezoning in any capacity, regardless of how you tell them to come back or not.
So let's move on now to the TRC, because there's been some talk about that as well. On the technical review committee, once a person comes in, so if this gentleman come in and wanted to build 100 homes in the RA district, which it is now, he would still have to go through the technical review committee to build this development if he chooses to do that. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, on this technical review committee, who sits on that? Who has a voice on this?
The planning department, we have representation from the planning board, we have DEQ there, we have DOT.
Division of Land Quality, is that correct? Environment.
Department of Environmental Quality, specifically water resources, Department of Transportation, Economic Development, County Engineering, Emergency Services, local fire departments, schools. Just about everybody who this would affect has a say on here in some manner or not, comments, voting members, things like that. But just about everybody's touched.
Is the ability for this technical review committee to do their job based on finances from the county? Or have you been completing your assignments?
It's just based on policies and procedures that are either handed out by the county or by the state.
And so I want to talk just a little bit about the TRC as it relates to some of the things that we've heard here tonight. So the county does not maintain any roads. We don't build them, we don't maintain them. Is that correct?
Correct.
That would be the Department of Transportation.
Right. We do have standards that any of the roads that would be developed within the subdivision would have to meet DOT standards, whether they'd be given over to the state. If they were going to remain private, we have separate standards for those, but we have no control over the external roads, and nor can we require things. But DOT does require some type of transportation study to go through this process. They're doing it with a few other rezonings currently in that general vicinity as well.
So this would be subject to a traffic study by DOT, is that correct?
Right, a traffic impact analysis is what they call it.
And if DOT determines that there needs to be updates made to an intersection or a road, it would be well in their purview to ask the developer to do that, is that correct?
As far as I understand it, yes.
Okay. And so that would involve turn lanes or the intersection revamping or whatever
The
they
lanes, everything, yeah.
But it would be solely on them. Even if the county wanted to do something, we don't have the power. It's not within our purview to make Department of Transportation do anything. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And so let's move on just a minute to the other issues where it was the emergency services. And you may or may not know the answer to this, but you've said that EMS has a position on the board, right? On the TRC.
Yeah, emergency management does themselves.
And so they have the opportunity to speak up and say that they can or cannot cover an additional area if there's houses built there. Is that correct?
I believe they could, yes.
And it would be unreasonable to think that every house that's built, if they build 137 houses, that there's going to, every person that owns a house is going to call an ambulance at some point in time while they're there. Is that, would that, I mean, there's the facts that is, you know, what bear that out, or you
I really couldn't say. I'm not really qualified to answer that question.
I've lived in my house for 35 years. I've never called the fire department or EMS. Thank goodness. May have to call them tomorrow. Thank God they're there. So I guess my point is that once the rezoning's done, we're not approving a housing development tonight. That's not our job, is it?
No, sir. What y'all are looking at is all uses, and yes, a housing development is a use in that zoning district. So is manufactured homes, so is a single detached residential family, so are townhomes. So there's a gamut of uses to consider. That's what we looked at when we were looking at the feasibility for this property. Yes, RM is suitable for the region. Yes, it's consistent with the land use plan.
I understand. And so if it were to be the decision of the planning zone that there needed to be some type of DOT work, EMS couldn't handle theirs, then it would be under your purview to make changes, or as before you approve, you could approve or disapprove the.
Yeah, the way the TRC functions is it votes much in the same way that y'all do. Based on those results, but more often than not, we won't even take a vote if something doesn't meet a regulation or if something needs to be revisited and restudied, and it postpones the project until everything comes back to us and we gather more data.
So when you take your vote on a project, you're satisfied, and the people that sit on this board in all these various agencies that we've mentioned are satisfied that this project meets the requirements set forth by the county and our land use, our UDO, and it's not a burden on emergency services. Is that a fair statement?
I believe that's a fair statement, yes, sir.
And then one last thing, we don't have a department that necessarily deals with runoff either, correct? It's
no.
handled by DENR, is that correct?
We handle everything through the DEQ with the water resources that manages that. Presently, those are the state regulations. We don't have any of our own local regulations regarding stormwater controls or erosion control or runoff.
But as a general rule, I believe that when a plan is submitted, they have to pass a review by DEQ as well. Is that correct?
Yes. Once you start moving more than 1 acre of dirt, they've got to get their soil and erosion control plan permitted by the state before they can even get their permits from us to move forward.
And then if there's a problem with that during the construction phase, then DEQ would be the ones to enforce that, because they're the ones that made the recommendations or the decision as to what would be required for erosion control on the plans prior to construction starting. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I have one more question. I think Mr. Ronnie Tate's in the back. Ronnie, you might can answer this. When it comes to the water and sewer, I believe my understanding is that there's water currently in that area. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. There is water running along 220 and also partially way on Noonan Road.
But there's not sewer in front of this property. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct. The only sewer we have is on 220.
And how is this development going to be served by sewer if there's no sewer there?
They will be required to, inside the subdivision, they will install their own wastewater lines, and they will extend those to connect onto our system, whether it's catching the lift station there, Red Birch lift station on 220, or coming on Newnham Road with a force main to tie into a gravity line there at the Red Birch service station.
But at either rate, what we're talking about here is that we're going to get sewer service to this development at no cost to the county, right? This developer is going to be required to do that on his own.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Okay. Thank you. I think that's all the questions I have.
Anyone else have any questions?
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Hey,
Commissioner
Marty,
Travis.
since you was getting all the questions, let me ask you a question. How short is EMS right now?
That's not in my department. I don't know, sir.
What's the ETA for each EMS dispatch right now?
Don't know, sir.
You understand what I'm getting at? We got short EMS in the county. We've got directors working the shift to fill the void. We have short sheriff's department. We have short fire department. Fire department can't get volunteers. EMS can't hire nobody, even though we got positions available. So we're short. Does it make sense if we can't take care of the citizens we got now, why we keep adding more citizens? We can't take care of them now. I think we should fix EMS, fire departments, help them out before we keep expanding. We've expanded so much in this area. Our sheriff's department don't even patrol out there that much. Every now and then you'll see one go by because we ain't got enough sheriff's department.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I can only respond to
Are those
my
questions
ordinances.
That you can check. You understand? You check everything else, but you don't check that. You said emergency services is feasible to be out there. How? You didn't check.
Well,
I said it's feasible for this property to be rezoned to RM. I have not checked into the study of whether, because it's not TRC time yet,
Thank you, Mr.
whether the rest of that could happen. However, we are here to consider all possible uses in that zoning district. And again, this specific use is a possible use for you to consider.
Thanks, Marzi. I appreciate it.
any other questions?
Just one, Marzi, how would the public make an input to the TRC comings and goings?
There is no public input in TRC. It's all technical review in policies, ordinances like that. They are public meetings, but there's no public comment, sir. Coming to my mind with that being thought, since we have to follow the rules and regulations as laid out by the board in those meetings, they are allowed to come before y'all with a text amendment if they're not satisfied with the rules before them. So the rules we enforce are in their ordinances, and the public is allowed to make changes to their ordinances through y'all. So that is a means of control and input.
Well, I don't know about DOQ, but DOT will make available public comment during their processes of reassessing how the road structure's got to be.
Any other questions of Marzi? No. Okay. The applicant does have the opportunity to rebut any comments that they've heard if they so choose at this time or not. Ball's in your court. You got up to 7 minutes for a rebuttal.
Thank you. No, as I've heard most of what everybody brought up in the community meeting and the initial planning meeting. And I do believe that the TRC process here in Rockingham County catches a lot of things that could cause a development to go awry. Everything Marzi said, I think, is accurate. I think the reason for the rezoning that I'm requesting is a good one. And if that's what I end up getting, which is what I feel like it needs, then I'm going to build exactly what's on that piece of paper. So, and then with regards to you, sir, You know, he had some erosion control issues and that kind of thing. And since Collybrook was started, erosion control plans have changed quite a bit and regulations have changed quite a bit. On the 69 unit development that we have to the south of where I'm proposing this rezoning, there's 2 ponds and a diversion ditch, which filters water down to it because they're trying to get the water cleaner. So DEQ is doing a good job at, you know, it's putting the developer in a position to where they have to be a little more responsible, which is a great thing. So, but other than that, I mean, I've heard everybody, and I would just request that you guys zoning.
Okay. Thank you. John, before we get any further, if you could just remind the board as far as what the standard is for a rezoning case. I may have some questions for you once you state those.
Certainly. So the board has broad discretion in rezoning cases such as this, as long as the request is made based on all the evidence and everything presented fits within the land use plan and the UDO and relevant North Carolina law. So as long as it's not an unconstitutional. Other than that, the board has broad discretion in legislative hearings such as this.
Okay. And are you to look at the UDO, and would the UDO include population of schools?
Specifically the UDO, that may be a question for the planning director to know the ins and outs as far as the details on the UDO.
Okay.
The UDO does not include any department outside of land use. So no populations for schools, no population estimates for emergency services, law enforcement, any of that. That's why they have a seat at the Technical Review Committee.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right. With that, gentlemen, if you have any comments or questions at this point, please let me know. If not, do we have a motion from anyone?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion. We approve the request with analysis and comment.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Hall. Do we have a second? All right, second by Commissioner Richardson. All in favor, let it be known by the sound of aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Thank you. Next is case 2022-11, and that's from RP down to RA in the Huntsville district.
I'm going to take a break
while we
see if we're moving.
We've got a little bit of movement, and I think we've got one or two that want to break, so we'll take just a 2 or 3 minute recess. Just stand at ease, please. Okay, I'll call the meeting back to order. Marzi, we are on case 2022-11, which is RP to RA on Ellisboro Road.
Yes, sir. This is in the Huntsville Township on Ellisboro Road at 4035. This is another non-conditional straight rezoning. The planning board did vote unanimously 6-0 to recommend approval of this request at their June meeting. As you see, it's in the very, very southwest quadrant of the county. It's surrounded by a lot of RA. Directly adjacent on the sides are RP. There's some RM in the area as well. So it's mostly highly residential in that jurisdiction. From the environmental map, you can just see the aerial. There's a lot of homes. And it is in our O2 land class, which is a state mostly rural residential. This part of their land use plan does suggest that everything generally be zoned residential agricultural and does provide for housing variety as a major goal.
Anyone have any questions of Marzi on this one? Okay. If not, then I will open the public hearing. No one signed up to speak for this public hearing, so as a result, I will close the public hearing. And with that, gentlemen, do we have any questions or any motions to make?
Move approval.
With statements and analysis.
Statements and analysis.
Motion by Commissioner Richardson. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Powell. All in favor, let it be known by the sound of aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, next is the number 3, case 2022-12.
Yes, sir, this is a unique case. This is a request for a zoning map amendment from residential agricultural to rural commercial. This is up at 5177 US 220 Business, just north of Stoneville, in Mayo Township. This is non-conditional straight rezoning as well. The planning board did vote 5-1 to approve this request, with Ms. Cindy Hayworth dissenting at their June meeting. I will ask Lynn Cochran to come up here and probably give you a little bit more detail on that.
Yes.
But this, as you can see by the vicinity of the map, it is north of Stoneville. It is sandwiched in between some light industrial in that region, a lot of RA and RP, and is in our O2 land class as well, within less than half a mile of the growth corridor. Lynn, if you don't mind.
Good evening, y'all. I'll try to be as brief as Marzi is. You know, I tend to talk a little bit more than that, so bear with me. Just wanted to let you know that this case originated as a code enforcement complaint because of the condition of the lot and because of the storage of junked vehicles. And so the owner, who is primarily Spanish-speaking, he does have family who translate for him, came in to talk about what options we had. Marzi and I looked at multiple options, which included a consideration of rezoning to light industrial, a rezoning to perhaps some other category where this would fit. He owns a hauling business. He has a tower or a couple of towers, and he temporarily stores these junked vehicles, which is not allowed as an outdoor use according to our UDO. So bringing him into, our final decision was to try to bring him into the rural commercial zoning class. One of the uses is that, even though all uses must be considered, that one of the uses that he's looking at specifically is the rural family occupation that is now allowed in the commercial classes versus the residential classes as it was in the old ordinance, as some of you guys might remember. I don't know. So under the rural family occupation, it would be a way for him to get the lot into conformance, improving structures, enclosing the garage so that the vehicles will be stored and enclosed and out of sight, at least by a 3-bay garage. There are presently 4 manufactured homes on the property that are what we call allowed nonconformances. They've been there for a really long time, so they're sort of quote-unquote grandfathered. Those are now falling into disrepair. The owner is well aware that they're falling into disrepair, and as each unit is vacated, the owner has agreed to have that demolished and removed from the property, with the exception of one that he would like to keep on the property that would be for someone who can supervise the lot off hours while he's not there. Wow, I kept that pretty short. I'm proud of myself. If there's anything that can answer, I'll be glad to.
Any questions? Okay.
Thanks.
If not, then we do have people that signed up for this public hearing. Before I call you up, I will reiterate that Mr. Metzler or Mr. Morris read the rules earlier as far as public comments during the public hearing. They still apply. So first is is it Rhoda Harper?
Yes.
You can come down, please.
Wesley Harper. I'm giving I 3 minutes.
Okay, to Wesley. Okay, well, next was William Harper. Well, the most he can get is 6, so one of you, but I just want to make sure y'all are aware of that before you start. Okay, then Wesley Harper, please come forward.
Yes, thank you. I'm Wesley Harper. I live at 5096 US Highway 220 Business. My parents, over here behind me, they live at 5038, which is 2 separate properties. And we're kind of diagonal to this piece of property. My concern is, with this being a rural commercial, we're moving to a rural commercial, is this guy's been doing this for over a year now, storing these junk cars up there. And there's a bunch of new properties, which I don't know if they told you about that have moved across the street from this location and down a little bit. So, I mean, it's a real residential area, which I don't understand, it turning into a rural commercial is the right place for this. I don't understand. He doesn't keep his trucks at this location. I mean, I don't know where he keeps those at. What's his whole agenda? At the last planning board meeting that they had, they were all concerned about, what this guy's intent is. What's his thing? I mean, we've already have enough problems with the people that he rents, the people that live there in these trailers. The sheriff's been called, all the neighbors complain because they play music to 3, 4 o'clock. Now, my concern is if it goes to rural commercial, are they going to have a noise ordinance up to a certain time? Are they going to be pounding on cars all the time? I mean, which I understand. I think they said something about they're going to have to be fenced in, which that's all fine and dandy, but what's happening to all the fluids and the stuff that's going on the ground? This has been happening for a year. And there's no real cleanup to the property. There's like 10 cars sitting up there now today, and a stack of tires and all this. The houses are run down. Like they're telling you the houses are run down, the trailers, whatever you want to consider they are. Which, I don't want to see anybody homeless either, but the place needs to be cleaned up. And I don't know if going to rural commercial, if he's going to do any better at it than where he's at now. I mean, that's where our concern is. And I want you guys to consider that. And, I know there's some of the other neighbors are talking. People got to work and stuff. So, but we're here to voice our opinion, what we think about it. And I think it's something, I don't know if, there's light industrial up the street. Well, one of them places are burned down, and it's not even, it was an old machine shop or something a guy had back in the old days. And we've been there 13 years, and we try to keep our property up and try to keep that residential commercial or residential agricultural still in our land. You know what I mean? I like to keep that rural land. And I just don't think this is the right place. I want you guys to understand that and think about that I don't think this location, and then you got the railroad tracks too that go right on the backside of this piece of property. So you got to think about that too. So that's kind of where I'm at. I just want you guys to think about that it becoming a commercial property is the right time and location for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. That's everyone that signed up for the public hearing on this one, so we will close the public hearing. Gentlemen, do we have any questions? Commissioner Travis?
Marzi, I got a question. Is he using this property for his business, or is he using it for a junkyard?
Currently, as the applicants explained to us, it's part of his business. He has a towing company. We've gone through a few iterations when we're working with this gentleman to figure out how he's going to use this property. But currently, he does sometimes store the vehicles there, haul them off, store more there, haul them off. And that's what got him into the code enforcement violation. We're trying to, find a way to bring him into compliance so he can still use the property in a way that actually would be harmonious with the area as much as possible. But again, this is our attempt to try to work with the property owner to correct a situation. It still has to be hammered out how he's going to bring that property up to like buffer standards from the neighbors, what he would put on that property if at the end of the day would give him the permit to use the property for the business. This is a first step in a process to solve a problem.
So you're saying he uses the property for a towing business, so he gets vehicles and brings them back to that property?
That's what we've been understanding from code enforcement, yes.
But nobody really knows?
Well, no, he does haul them off. What I'm saying is based on the applicant, he will be storing his records here at the garage area.
I understand.
That's what he intends to do.
You're trying to get him up to code, but he broke code because of neighbors' complaints. So you're helping him to get up to code and disregarding the neighbors.
No, sir. We're trying to find a way to meet a solution that works for everybody.
I got you, but some don't seem like it's working.
Well, again, as I said, this is a first step. Y'all have, as everything comes before you, have the right to deny this, and we'll go back to the drawing board. But this was our first attempt to try to solve a problem.
So with this zoning request, it will require him to put fencing up around his property.
Around the area that he'll be using for the vehicles will be a garage. He can't store them outside. There's no outside storage.
Okay,
there would still probably be some type of fencing or buffer between the neighboring properties as our commercial code does require.
Okay, I think that might help a lot with their neighbors if they know there's going to be a fence around the garage and he can't store any vehicles outside that fence.
Right. As I said, we're still working with him to help him understand what would be entailed if this goes through.
I think the issue more is you talking to the neighbors and letting them understand, because I understand what you're saying, and I agree with it. But I think the neighbors need to understand what's going on too. So if we pass this, it's going to require him to put a fence around his garage. That's where he can store these vehicles that he gathered. So that means he has to clean up his property.
Have to clean up the property. He'll have to put some type of buffer between this property and the adjoining properties.
Right,
And anything, no outside storage allowed.
Right.
And like I said, getting that point across and getting to the point whether this gets rezoned or not, we still have to get that hurdle out of the way after the fact.
Gotcha. And I as far as he mentioned noise ordinance still applies whether he's a business or not. It
applies to everything.
So that applies to everything. So I think that might help you, sir, understanding that. So, okay, thank you, Marzi.
Commissioner Powell.
So I'm a little bit concerned about the precedent that seems to be setting, is because we have somebody that's out of compliance with the current zoning. Code enforcement's been called, and so now we're going to change the zoning to try to bring them in compliance rather than forcing them to be in compliance with the current zoning they're on. Is that pretty fair assessment of this?
It's a fairly standard solution that we try to deal with everybody if they go that route. I mean, we gave them the option. When I drove by, there was only one car out there at the time I drove by to put the sign out or make sure the sign was still out. So there's elements of compliance he's already met. This is a solution for him to be able to still use it for the intention that he bought the property to begin with. That's just how we approach every problem, is we try to find a solution to work for everybody that brings everybody to, the middle ground, so to speak. But he's already started coming into compliance with a lot of the code enforcement issues.
How do we?
Not perfect yet, mind you.
I know, I understand what you're saying. I'm just concerned that, it sounds like that we're changing the rule, not changing the rules, but we're trying to rezone the property to bring him into compliance when obviously he wasn't in compliance because we wouldn't have had the code enforcement officers out there to begin with.
Right, but this is a standard process that we go through for several people for their compliance as well.
So how does that affect the neighbors? I'm concerned. And the second part of that is, how do we make sure that he does that? Because we just had an hour's worth of talk about a straight rezoning as opposed to a conditional rezoning. And it sounds like to me that this may be the perfect opportunity for a conditional rezoning, if I understand them correctly.
It could have been, but we also have developed commercial standards in our UDO. Okay. As opposed to whereas, let's say, housing development, a subdivision doesn't have any standards other than the major subdivision rules of a road and the number of lots and density. This has actual buffer standards, it has landscaping standards. All that would have to be met before any permit would be issued for the construction of the building to hold anything there.
So now, how there again, let me get back. These fine folks have said this has been going on for a year. And you've been dealing with this problem for quite some time, I'm assuming, or your office has.
A couple months.
And so how do we make sure that this is going to happen so that these folks sitting behind you know that at some point in time this is going to get cleaned up and they're going to be good? I mean, so if he doesn't comply with this, what's the next step?
If it doesn't come into compliance with any of the changes, I mean, it's full code enforcement at that point. Following the full procedures, it'll be the fines until he brings everything into compliance with what it is currently, which is a legally non-conforming mobile home park, is what he'd have to come into current compliance with to make it fully just residential use. And we would make him go through that if we don't go through this process.
How long does he have to come into compliance under this zoning?
Let's see, we just updated those rules a few months ago. I believe it's maybe about 90-day total period.
Okay.
But it's always stayed while they're trying to fix the solution. So currently that process has been stayed while we go through this process.
Okay. All right. Good. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions?
A couple.
Okay, Commissioner Richardson.
These trailers are occupied.
Yes, sir.
When this property goes commercial, they won't you can't have occupants in them then, correct?
That's what we were trying to work out. That's where Lynn was talking about, as these things come out of, as tenants need to move out due to the condition of the home gets removed from the property and not replaced.
And that's voluntary or mandatory?
It's actually going to be mandatory because it would be moved to a commercial district. But right now, we're still in a legally non-conforming situation. Even if you rezone it, it maintains its legal non-conforming situation. So it's a matter of balancing and bringing everything in as it goes along.
Eventually, the trailers are going to move.
All but the one that would be there for the on-site security or.
And it's
family
not a
member.
residence, it's in essence an office, right?
Right, it's an accessory use in our ordinance that you can have on-site security.
Right. I heard what I thought was a pretty valid complaint or worry about potential leaks, but as a commercial place, handling vehicles, would it not be subject for inspection for things like oil drips or leaks?
Not by my department, but I believe whatever he's registered with for DMV would do something like that, yes. But I'd like to point out that we don't cover that kind of thing in our ordinance as far as our regulations. Our commercial code doesn't go as far as doing business inspections after the fact.
Well, let's suppose this family or some other family decides that something's dripping onto their property from this property. Who would they go talk to?
I believe it'd be a civil matter at that point.
Or a contact to Diener.
Well, they'd have to talk to DEQ, but I don't know what they would handle for that.
You just got the right answer.
I'm just saying our rules don't contain that kind of detail in them.
Yeah, I'm not trying to overquiz you. I'm trying to answer some questions that I perceived there, and he gave you the answer there. Thank you.
Any other questions of Marzi?
Just to clarify, if I could.
Commissioner Hall.
The address, this is U.S. Highway 220 Business, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And it sounds as if the garage is not there at this point.
No, there's a collapsed building at this point.
Okay, and so there's a number of things he'll have to do, and y'all being your department or code enforcement, will stay on top of making sure it's moving forward, and if it doesn't, then y'all will take the appropriate action.
Yes, sir. Even if y'all do rezone this, if he can't still meet the site plan requirements, the permitting requirements and all that, we couldn't legally issue it in the first place.
Marzi, before they leave, can you make sure they have your contact information? Because I'm pretty sure they're going to have a lot of questions.
Yes, sir. I've already been contacted by one of them already, but we're happy to give them my card.
Thank you, Marzi.
Gentlemen?
You do. I make a motion we accept the proposal with analysis and comment.
Motion by Commissioner Hall, second by Commissioner Richardson. All in favor, let it be known by the sound of aye. Aye. Any opposed? Yes. Okay. Then next is case 2022-13, and that is from RA to light industrial.
There we go. Yes, this is at 4300 NC Highway 65 in the New Bethel Township. Again, this is a straight rezoning. The planning board did vote unanimously 6-0 to recommend approval of this request at their June meeting. This is taking a small section of property owned, as you can see where it's located, sorry. This is a small section of property already owned by Transco and surrounded completely by their own property. They're trying just to homogenize the property and bring it all into compliance. Largely because what they plan to do over there, they just like it all to be connected as one thing, so they don't have to worry about, stepping over into RA and being out of compliance. So this is just to bring everything totally put together. There's no environmental features in the area outside of the pipeline itself. And it is in our O2 rural land class area. However, we do maintain in our economic development section of the LUP that we do what we can to help promote our existing industrial sites as well.
Okay. Thank you, Marzi. Any questions before I open the public hearing? If not, then I'll open the public hearing. No one signed up for 2022-13, so I will close the public hearing. Gentlemen, do we have any questions or a motion?
I make a motion to approve case 2022-13 and analysis and statements.
Motion by Commissioner Travis, second by Commissioner Powell. All in favor, let it be known by the sound of aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Thank you, Marzi. Next, Lance, we've got some no-wake zone information for Humphreys Ridge.
Okay. How do we get this to show up on the screen?
Marzi? He might need your assistance.
It's the first time for me, first time in a while since the budget, so I just need to get that on the screen.
What is this?
I did.
It's just a picture?
Yep.
Then you need IT's help because I only know how to start the.
Tammy?
I don't know how to start this PowerPoint.
Filling in for Derek, can you help me? This should be fairly,
What have you got here? Did you put in?
she put it right there.
Oh, I see it. I want to touch everything. Let me get the mouse where it needs to go.
Nope. Nope. Didn't see it right there.
It's right here, though.
Mm-hmm.
It's up on the screen.
Nope.
It'd be on that TV if it were.
It's open on this screen.
In front of you, it'd be right there. Okay, if it doesn't, well, you've got it in the packet. We can
We
look
got
at
the
it. We're good.
package.
We're good.
Okay.
Don't worry
And-
about it.
Let me just widen it, Casey.
Okay, so Miss Davina Middleton, the owner of Humphreys Ridge Marina and Campground, contacted the North Carolina Wildlife Resource Commission to conduct an assessment matrix on Blues Lake for a no-wake zone. The matrix was completed and assessor, the law enforcement included a recommendation for 5 no-wake buoys to be placed in front of the marina. And I've done this when I was in Montgomery County for the no-wake zones. The next step is for our board to approve a resolution and complete a D1 form, which I've completed. It's in your packet. The Middletons have agreed to purchase and maintain the buoys with the assistance of the Wildlife Resource Commission to make placement of the buoys. If you all approve this, then the resolution, the ID form, will be sent to the Wildlife Resource Commission for consideration. It's ultimately their decision if the no-wake buoys are to be placed or not. We do have Officer Perdue here with the Wildlife Resource Commission. If you have any questions, he's here to answer those questions. But again, the Middletons will provide maintenance, purchase and maintenance of those 5 buoys.
Okay. Thank you, Lance. Does anyone have any questions of Officer Perdue?
I'll make a motion.
Hold on. With that, it does require a public hearing, and we will open the public hearing. No one signed up for the public hearing, and as a result, we will close the public hearing. So now, Commissioner Travis.
Motion to approve the resolution.
Motion by Commissioner Travis.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Richardson. All in favor, let it be known by the sound of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next, Ronnie Tate. Funding in
That's good.
regards to the indoor firing range that Commissioner Hall has been working so hard on.
Good evening, gentlemen. The first item I have is for board approval for the budget for the indoor public firing range to be located at the Sheriff's Outdoor Firing Range location on Highway 704 near the Rockingham County landfill. Based upon architect's preliminary budget, the cost for design and permitting construction for this project is estimated to be $2.5 million. The county is looking at several sources of funding for this project, the first being up to $1 million from North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission, $250,000 from the Office of State Budget Management, a donation of $100,000 from Stern Ruger Corporation. I'm in the process of applying for a grant from the NRA for up to $25,000. That leaves the remaining balance of $1,125,000 to come from the county's fund balance reserve. And if the board decides to approve this tonight, there's 2 things. There's a capital project ordinance in your packet and the budget amendment from the finance office for approval for this. So I'll be glad to try to answer any questions you might have.
Questions, Mr. Tate, at this time? No? I do want to mention that Office of State Budget Management money that we received was the hard work of my father and at the time Representative Mr. Jerry Carter and putting that in the state budget. So certainly thank them for that. With that, do we have a motion to approve the capital ordinance and can we do that under one motion?
Yes.
And the budget amendment.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Travis, second by Commissioner Hall. All in favor, let it be known by the sound of aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. And believe you're still up.
Yes, sir. The second item was supposed to be presented by Bill Lester, but Bill unfortunately has contracted COVID again. So you're stuck with me for this one. So this is to approve the recommendation of award for the relocation of the Hogan's Creek booster pump station relocation. And the contractor is Laughlin Sutton out of Greensboro. Their bid was $1,189,500. This money is coming through NCDQ to pay for this project, and it is to relocate the booster pumps out of the floodplain at Hogan's Creek. And Bill wanted me to remind you all too that he is in the process of seeing if at the same time we do this, we would have to pay for this separately, but to increase the capacity of those pumps as part of the upgrades we're looking at along 220. And we would pay for those upgrades, but we have to get approval from DEQ to do that. But he did want me to mention that to the board tonight. And if you decide to approve this, there's a resolution attached that needs approval, approving the tentative award of the construction contract.
Anyone have any questions of Mr. Tate on this?
And also to allow me the county manager to approve up to $50,000 in change order.
Yes, sir. Sorry, forgot
Send
that.
the resolution, or is that?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Ronnie, you mentioned the capacity upgrade. If we choose to incorporate in that, how would we do that?
That money will come out of the upgrades for the future sewer upgrades.
Would we just offer guidance at this time and then we vote on it later as an amendment?
Yes, sir. When we, you will probably early of 23, you'll be asked to approve the construction of those upgrades to those lines and the upgrades to the plant at Mayodan, and that would be part of that. So at this time, it's just approval for this construction.
So I guess what I'm saying is we're not wasting money by doing this now and then having to put new pumps in later. We're going
to try to do them at the same time.
That's what I'm asking.
Yes,
so,
sir. Yeah.
But
we have to have DEQ permission to do it.
But that'll still happen early next year.
Yes.
And you'll bring it to us for approval at that time.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions? If not, do we have a motion to approve the resolution with change orders up to $50,000?
Make a motion.
Motion by Commissioner Powell. Second by Commissioner Travis.
Clarification, that also includes the resolution, right?
Yes, the resolution and the change orders. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Maybe another clarification. So in essence, we're approving the relocation, but not the procurement of the pump until we decide how big it's going to be.
Yes.
And now, and if DEQ approves the expansion or the upgrades, then we'll have to come back to you. But this, as it stands right now, and we should hear something back within a short period of time from DEQ.
Yeah, Bill's working with them to try to get them to approve to allow us to upgrade those.
Okay. Call it.
And the second. With that, all in favor, let it be known by the sound of aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. New business.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner comments? Commissioner Travis?
No comment.
Commissioner Powell?
Yes, I just, tonight we had a rezoning that was kind of contentious, and I certainly understand the people that were here. I understand their view and their stand on this, but there's also another one. There's another landowner out there that possibly could have had the government tell them they can't sell their property. That's something that we have to look at, too. There's always two sides to this. And we do need growth, and our growth and development was not started by the seat of our britches. It was actually planned years ago when we started putting water and sewer lines in the ground, and then the economy tanked and we wasn't able to recognize any growth much. And we were paying those bills. We're still paying those bills, as a matter of fact, and so we need some more. We need growth in this county, and we need a place that our our children, when they graduate, those that go to college particularly, that we spend piles of money on educating and working with them in this county, and they get a degree and they go somewhere else to apply their trade. We need business here. We need growth here to keep them here. We need a place for not only those children, but we need a place for those that are going into trades, the 49% that do not go to college. Need a place that they can buy. They need affordable housing, and certainly every neighborhood in this county would like to see a development. If they're going to have to live by development, they'd like to see one with houses in the $1 million range. But that's not possible, and we need affordable housing for our children and our grandchildren. And we don't want them going to Guilford County. We don't really want them going there to shop or going there to work. We want them to stay right here in Rockingham County. And it's the growth that we've experienced in the last several years that's allowed us to, and allowed this board, I haven't been on it, but through one budget session, but it's allowed this board to go 13 years without raising taxes. 13 years. Now, you can't do that at home because obviously everything goes up that you're dealing with, and if your employer doesn't raise your pay, then you're stung by the inflation. But here in the county is no different. Our costs go up every year. We've been able to cover them because we've had sufficient growth. We've been able to get grants. We've been able to get money through Senator Berger and Jerry Carter at the time, and now Reese Pirtle from the state, from our representatives. Our sales tax have increased. Our sales tax increased during the pandemic, which is almost unheard of. So, the thought process going into development has been very deliberate, and the gentleman that I sit with up here have guided a lot of that, because $1 billion of our investment has been realized in the last 3 years. So out of the last decade, the majority of our growth has been in the last 3 years. So while I understand that, people are very passionate about this, understand that we want a level playing field for developers. So under a conditional rezoning, we don't want a developer to come here and look and say, well, I don't know what I'm going to have to do because it's at the whims of 5 county commissioners. And in 4 years, when that board changes, it could be a different set of whims for another developer. So we need a baseline. We need to attract business. We need to attract development. We need to attract industry into this county for our citizens. And I'm very proud of the work that this board has done, and especially in the last 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hall?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate all those who came tonight to address their concerns. And, it's always important to be able to come and fuss at your government. We'll put it that way. But we appreciate that. But also I'd like to, you touched on it earlier, Mr. Chair. I'd like to thank Representative Carter for his work, as well as Senator Berger, for these funds that we're able to use for the firing range. And I'd additionally like to thank Representative Pirtle and Senator Berger again for their work in our current budget. They actually got the governor to sign it, and they've done a lot for the community this coming year. So we appreciate their efforts to help out their constituents here in Rockingham County. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Richardson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I'd like to recognize once again Dakota Reese, though he's not presently with us there. I think that speaks well of our county to have that sort of person nominated and selected as a volunteer of the month. Also, I can't say enough good things about Mark McClintock. The county manager and I have often talked what an excellent personnel evaluator is. He's hired a lot of folks, and we moved them from tax to all other places. So congratulations to those guys for their contributions. I'll take a moment to commend the fire departments of Stokesdale, Huntsville, and Summerfield, who are ahead of the game on fire protection for the southwest corner of the county. Stokesdale providing a firehouse on land donated by Carroll Corporation, and Huntsville and Summerfield contributing personnel and equipment to that. And this will help ameliorate some of the concerns that we heard. I, too, appreciate all the folks that spoke tonight about the rezoning. First of all, I'm glad that they're concerned about the county and their area, and I think many of their points are valid in a general sense, but I'm happy to report that I think all of their points have been looked at by personnel within the county. And we need to stay on top of that, Mr. Manager, and all the rest of us to make sure that we don't create a problem we don't need to have. But controlled growth is important. I will recognize Houston Barrow here, who is a candidate to be on this board, running unopposed in November, and the chair of the Republican Party is with us. And no other elected officials came tonight, Mr. Chair, so I yield to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Commissioner Richardson. I will point out the school board is also meeting tonight, and that certainly impacts the crowd that we draw. Couple of things. Certainly want to reiterate what you've mentioned about the recognitions we had earlier today. It's great to honor those citizens and former employees that have been able to achieve retirement. Mark's just truly going to be missed, just a wealth of knowledge, and always a pleasure to speak with. I want to give a special thanks to Commissioner Hall and the hard work he has put in on the indoor firing range. This is something that he brought to the board and was instrumental in getting it to this point. Then I just kind of want to somewhat touch on what Commissioner Powell mentioned as far as conditional zoning and boards changing. I'll just add that also when you get into conditional zoning, it's not just when a board changes, but some people go based on the size of the crowd, and it's by month to month as far as any decisions that commissioners make if you go with a conditional route. So that is why just straight rezoning so that the applicant and the people can understand what to expect when they do come to the government and ask, what can I do with my property? So wanted to also mention that. And then our next meeting, that first meeting in August, will be located in Eden, and that will be at 6:30. It's at the Eden City Hall. Is that correct? Okay, I just want to put that out there. So with that, I don't believe we've got anything else. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
You do.
A motion by Commissioner Richardson and second by Commissioner Powell. All in favor, let it be known by the sound of aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And we stand adjourned.